This is Duke University.
One way that I feel very strongly about in terms of fostering a more inclusive social innovation system is to put more folks of color in investment-making positions. And that probably sounds self-serving given that that's what I do, but when I really think about my own experience, what I realize and what's not lost on me is that almost every person that's invested in Camelback at institutions that we all respect, Gates and Walton and Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, has been a person of color. And so what it makes me realize is that when you put people of color in a position to make investment decisions, you're going to get a situation where they have just a different network of folks. They understand a set of problems such that when entrepreneurs of color come to them, they understand those problems a little bit more, and are, at least in my experience, have been willing to advocate for making investments in entrepreneurs of color. And so I just think that when you give people that power, that you're then going to put the social innovation space in a place where you're going to invest in Aaron. And when you invest in Camelback, you're investing in all the entrepreneurs that we're investing in, just through one investment. And so I think that's like the simplest thing that we could do today is just look at our institution and say, who's making decisions, and how do we have a broad array of folks, at the table. A couple trends excite me. So one is just thinking about endowments and how they are becoming impact investors. So we've had endowments in the past do this. The most recent that stands out to me is the Ford Foundation agreeing to invest $1 billion in socially conscious businesses through their endowment. And so if you sort of think about it, a foundation has 5% of their funds every year they need to spend on doing good. And then you have this other 95% that you're spending, where, if you sort of think about it at some level, they are spending $19 more. It's 19 to 1 that they're spending on things that are creating the problem and $1 to solve the problem. And so just this idea that we are sort of seeing institutions, sort of venerable institutions like Ford sort of say to themselves, if we really are trying to have an impact in the world, we need to not just worry about this 5%, but we also need to worry about this 95%. The one thing that I wish investors knew about social entrepreneurship is that everyone's path to getting to them is different, and that sometimes you may look at a person and assume that they, just because they're getting to you, they traveled the same path to get there, but that's not necessarily the case. And so what I really mean by that is, and I'm particularly thinking of, women and folks of color in this specific situation, is two entrepreneurs, come to you with an idea or they're able to sort of, get to you, and you sort of think to yourself, what they have done maybe is impressive, or maybe it's not. But oftentimes folks are running with one leg tied behind their back, to sort of get there. So I think maybe just having a deeper appreciation and respect for the distance traveled, to get there, and it's not a binary choice. I think that sometimes the thing that really hooks people is not necessarily like your actual solution, but you sort of teaching them to see the world in a way that they maybe haven't seen it before, to educate them on what's going on the ground that maybe they're not seeing, and allow them to understand why you think your theory of change or the thesis behind the company that you're trying to build is actually ahead of the curve in some way that the market currently isn't addressing. I know I often find those compelling because it's, you sort of have to walk your investor to why it matters, and why the thing that you're doing is going to be different than the dozens, if not hundreds, of other people who are trying to do it too.